Graph. How to graph the standard equation ax plus by is equal to c. What is it? A diagram of values usually shown as lines. Why? Helps to display data in an easier way to understand. Interesting fact, ladybirds or ladybugs are one type of beetle that help to control pest populations by feeding on aphids that would otherwise eat vegetable plants. Now, here are the examples we're going to be discussing in today's video. Let's take a closer look at example 1. Now let's read the steps. Step 1, substitute 0 for x and y. Step 2, plot and graph. Now let's read the question. Graph the given equation 5x plus 2y is equal to 10. Our first step is to rewrite the equation 2 times. Why twice? Because if we look at step 1, we need to substitute 0 2 times, 1 for x and 1 for y. So let's go ahead and get started by substituting 0 for x, and now we have 5 times 0 plus 2y is equal to 10. 5 times 0 is 0, so now we have 0 plus 2y is equal to 10. And when you add or subtract 0 to something, it does not affect it, so we can go ahead and drop it, and now we have 2y is equal to 10, or 2 times y is equal to 10. We need to isolate y. In order to do that, we need to do an inverse operation, and we need to do the inverse of times, and that is divide. So we're going to divide the left side and the right side by 2, and that gives us y is equal to 5. Why? Because 2 divided by 2 is 1, so those numbers cancel, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. That is our answer. Y is equal to 5. Now we're going to use our answer and the number we substituted, 0, to create our point 0, 5. That point is our y-intercept. And so that means that point is going to be on the y-axis. And there we have it. Now we have the first point. We need to find the second point. And that second point is going to be on the x-axis. So in order to find that point, we need to substitute 0 for y. So now we have 5x plus 2 times 0 is equal to 10. 2 times 0 is 0. So now we have 5x plus 0 is equal to 10. And remember, when you add or subtract 0 to something, it does not affect it. So we can go ahead and drop it. And now we have 5x is equal to 10. Or 5 times x is equal to 10, and the inverse of times is divide. So we're going to divide the left side and the right side by 5, and we get x is equal to 2. Why? Because 5 divided by 5 is 1, so those numbers cancel, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. Once again, our answer is x equals 2. We're going to use that answer and the number we substituted 0 to create our point 2, 0. That point is the x-intercept, and since it's the x-intercept, it's going to be on the x-axis, and now we've plotted it. We have 2 points. Let's go ahead and connect the points by drawing a line, and that line is the graph for the equation 5x plus 2y is equal to 10. Now let's take a look at the next example. Same question, different equation, and that equation is 2x minus 3y is equal to 6. So we're going to go ahead and start it the same way by rewriting the equation 2 times, because once again we need to substitute 0 for x and y. Now let's go ahead and get started with substituting 0 for x. So now we have 2 times 0 minus 3y is equal to 6. 2 times 0 is 0. So now we have 0 minus 3y is equal to 6. And remember, when you add or subtract 0 to something, it does not affect it. So we can go ahead and drop it. Now we have negative 3y is equal to 6. Or negative 3 times y is equal to 6. And now we need to isolate y, and we need to do that by doing an inverse operation. And since we have times, we need to do the inverse of that, and that is divide. So we're going to divide the left side and the right side by negative 3, and that gives us y is equal to negative 2. Why? Because negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. Because when you divide two negative numbers, the result is positive. So those numbers cancel. And 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. And once again, the answer is y is equal to negative 2. We're going to use that answer and the number we substituted 0 to create our point 0, negative 2. And that point is the y-intercept. And so that means it is going to be on the y-axis. So let's go ahead and plot it. And there we have it. Now we're going to go ahead to the other equation so we can find the x-intercept. In order to do that, we're going to substitute 0 in for y. And now we have 2x plus 3 times 0 is equal to 6. 3 times 0 is 0. So now we have 2x plus 0 is equal to 6. And remember, when you add or subtract 0 to something, it does not affect it. So we can go ahead and drop it. So now we have 2x is equal to 6, or 2 times x is equal to 6. And since we have times, we need to do the inverse of that, and that is divide. So we're going to divide the left side and the right side by 2, and we will get x is equal to 3, because 2 divided by 2 is 1, so those numbers cancel, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So once again, our answer is x is equal to 3. And now we're going to use that answer and the number we substituted 0 to create our point 3, 0. And that is our x-intercept. And since that is our x-intercept, we know it's going to be on the x-axis. And now we have it. And now we're going to go ahead and connect the 2 points by drawing a line. And that line is the graph for the equation 2x minus 3y is equal to 6. Now let's take a look at example 3. Now let's take a look at the steps. Step 1, solve for y. Step 2, plot and graph. So in this case, we're going to solve it a different way, and you get to choose which one you prefer. So let's read the equation. 3x plus 2y is equal to 8. We're going to rewrite it with some extra symbols with that positive 3x plus 2y is equal to 8. So we need to isolate y. In order to do that, we need to move that positive 3x to the other side, or do an inverse operation, and we need to subtract 3x from the left hand side. Those numbers cancel, and now we need to do it to the right hand side since we did it to the left hand side. And let's rewrite what we have. So we have positive 2y is equal to negative 3x plus 8, or we have that positive 2 times y, so we need to do the inverse of times, and that is divide. So we're going to divide the left side by positive 2, so we can go ahead and cancel those numbers because positive 2 divided by positive 2 is 1, so those numbers cancel. And since we did it to the left hand side, we now need to do it to the right hand side, and since we have that plus sign, we need to do it to each number or each term. So we have negative 3x, and we're going to divide that by positive 2, and we're going to divide that plus 8, or that positive 8 divided by positive 2. And we're going to have y is equal to negative 3 halves x plus 4, because negative 3 divided by positive 2 is negative 3 halves, and positive 8 divided by positive 2 is positive 4. Now, we're going to use that equation to help us graph. First things we need is the slope, and the slope is a change in y over the change in x, which is equal to negative 3 over 2. The next thing that we need is that positive 4, and that is our y-intercept. And since we have our y-intercept, we're going to go ahead and use that to go ahead and graph the point. And we know the y-intercept is on the y-axis, so we can go ahead and now use our slope to find our next point. And we go to the right 2 spaces because that is the change in x, and we go down 3 spaces because that is the change in y. And now we're going to do it one more time, and as we can see, we follow the same rule, and now we have 3 points. We're going to go ahead and connect them, and that is the graph for the equation 3x plus 2y is equal to 8. Now, let's take a look at the last example. 8x minus 4y is equal to 12. Now let's rewrite that with the extra positive sign. And once again, we need to isolate y. So we're going to do an inverse operation and subtract 8x from the left-hand side. So those numbers cancel. We now need to do it to the right-hand side. And let's rewrite what we have. We have negative 4y is equal to negative 8x plus 12. And remember that is negative 4 times y. So we need to divide to get rid of that negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1, because the result of two negative numbers when you divide them is positive, and those numbers cancel. And now we need to do it to each number or term on the right hand side. So we have negative 8, divide that by negative 4, and we have the positive 12, divide that by the negative 4, and we get y is equal to positive 2x minus 3, because negative 8 divided by negative 4 is positive 2, because when you multiply or divide by two negative numbers, the result is positive, and positive 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. And we're going to use that equation to help us graph. The first thing that we need is the slope, or the delta y over the delta x, and that is positive 2. The next thing that we need is the yi, or the y-intercept, and that is equal to negative 3. So we're going to go ahead and use those two pieces of information to graph. The first one that we need is the yi, or the y-intercept, and that is negative 3. The y-intercept is on the y-axis. We plotted that point. And now we're going to use the slope, positive 2, and positive 2 is just 2 over 1. So that means we're going to go up 2, because that's the delta y, and to the right 1, because that's delta x. We're going to do it one more time. And now we have 3 points. We're going to go ahead and connect them by drawing a line. And that is the graph for the equation 8x minus 4y is equal to 12. And now it is your turn, so go ahead and pause the video so you can take your time to answer this question. And I will give you 3, 2, and 1. If you got this correct, well done. If not, there is always tomorrow.